So it's been a while since I uploaded a video, but this car gave us a lot of work to do. And you guys will see that shortly in the video. However, we finally got MOT, the car is washed and ready to be sold, and I've just taken some pictures and videos of it, uploaded it onto some car dealer websites, and let's see who offers us the most amount of money. As many of you may know, this is the VW we bought as a non-runner, and we've been fixing up on the channel. We've got rid of all of that mold now. We had the bonnet issue, which we fixed, and then we managed to get locked out of it again, but we made sure the car is running. That was the main thing. The central lock-in we've already tackled and we fixed that issue. We just had to drill something out of the key and then it worked. There we are. The interior of this vehicle was filthy to say the least, but we tackled that. We sprayed it all down with white vinegar, tried to get some of that mold out ourselves. We removed the front seats in the process, but we cleaned up those seat belts and they came out really nice, surprisingly. But not everything was smooth sailing because we had that oil leak to address, and we'll be doing that in this video. If you've been following us on the channel, you know that we still haven't managed to get under the bonnet after we got locked out of it, and we haven't addressed at all the knocking sound that's coming from the wheel. So we're going to take off the wheel today, take off the arch and hopefully fix our bonnet issue, and then also address that knocking sound. I'll be honest, I've been putting this off because I just haven't had enough time. So as we know, UK winter time is always a race against light, so I'm not going to put this off anymore. I'm going to just crack on with it now. I just want to quickly apologize about some of the poor audio quality. It's because I had the car running and then now I'm trying to isolate the sound, which isn't a really good idea. But I've never done YouTube before, so I'm learning as I go, and I hope you guys can bear with me. Round 2, let's see if this one can get the job done. Let me tell you that in my entire life, I have never had to struggle this much for some wheel nuts to come off. They seem to have really seized up because they haven't been open for a year.
I've never ever experienced anything like it.
So what I found to be most effective is actually pulling on the bar rather than trying to do a push and force because it's just so seized up. So I ended up jacking the car up, taking all the nuts off after I had cracked them one by one. And once I finally got the tire off, I'm just putting it back under the car to support itself, just in case the jack fails on us. With the tire removed, we now have access to these screws that we're going to remove in order to get out the wheel arching. So now we can just pull this one out. It looks like this part didn't actually come off. Although we don't really need it, I just want to remove it to see the extent of our oil leak at the back there. So I'm actually going to remove it. There's 2 more screws underneath here holding it up. And there we go, it's up. Now our bonnet cable should be running just behind this light cap, so we're going to remove it. That part, that's our cable that comes from the bonnet, and it goes into that housing there, and that's where it's disconnected. Can you see the housing just from here? So we need to get that off and see if we can pull it towards us at an angle. That's one end. However, that's not the end we need. I'm going to try and get a latch onto it and see if I can pull it. It's going to be pretty hard because I can't see anything. I'm going to try and use this to see if I can hook onto the end of it. This part was actually really time consuming. It took me about an hour to actually get anywhere with this.
Get it out of its clip.
It was just trial after trial, and I just couldn't get enough leverage on my hand to pull the clip away.
I can't fit this onto there, otherwise it'd make it a lot easier to pull.
So I struggled with this for about another 20 minutes of getting the clip off, and then finally I actually thought I had some results. I managed to get my hand around the spring. I think I've managed to pull it now. Then I got my friend to come over and pop the bonnet open, so you can see my hand over there.
And there's my hand.
And then it was just a simple case of putting everything back together, just like we've done for the 4th time probably now. But I'm not willing to take any more chances, so I put 4 zip ties on the actual housing, because every time we'd pull the cable and there was tension on the ball, it would push the housing up and it would come out. And all that was left to do was test that it actually works, which it did. See, that's a new fresh pile of leak. I'm just gonna clean this up while we're here. And to clean all that gunk and oil off, I just use a degreaser and a blue tack rag to get all of that off as best as we could, and I think we actually did a pretty good job, just as long as this doesn't leak again. Now that we have that part cleaned, the only step that was left was to go ahead and pour in our engine stop leak and then put the cap back on. So we've poured in the oil stop leak. We're going to have to let the car run for approximately 10 minutes and hopefully that will seal all the gaps. Now that the car's running with the oil stop leak inside it, I'm going to try and crack on and put the wheel arch back on and also the wheel, and hopefully that should be job done for tonight. And this was just a simple case of putting everything back in reverse order the way we took it off, making sure we put all the screws back in just where we took them out. And I know we said we'll call it a night, but I had to find out what that knocking sound was because it wasn't coming from the driver's side, so we had to diagnose the issue further and find out where we're getting that knocking sound from so we can rectify it. And now the only thing that was left to do, now that I'm happy the bonnet latch won't be breaking on us again, was to put the wheel back on and lower the car and go to the other side to diagnose our issue. And of course I had to test if the bonnet works under its own pressure. And I considered that as job done, so all that was left to do was go back inside and put the interior trim panels back together that we removed in order to fix the bonnet latch in the first place. And also installing the last piece of trims that I never installed the first time around because we got locked out of the bonnet. So this is the issue that's making the sound, guys. This is what's making the rattling sound when we turn. The drive shaft housing is completely ripped apart. So we've just discovered that it's the CV joint that's making the knocking sound, so we're gonna have to leave it here for now and then hopefully get a CV joint as soon as possible. We're back again, but this time we have the CV boot joint. So we're gonna change this one, fill it up with grease, and hopefully we won't have that knocking sound no more. So today we're getting some help because I think I could do this one by myself. After we've removed the wheel and it's under the car securely, we go ahead and remove the 3 bolts for our wishbone, and then after that we just have our main drive shaft bolt to take off. Now that he's removed the 3 bolts for the wishbone, he's just removing the bolt for the drive shaft, and I'm just inside the car wiggling the steering wheel until he can free the wishbone. And as you saw, I've bought a CV boot cover for the vehicle. However, you're going to find out that I've misdiagnosed our issue. And that's exactly what I mean. The knocking sound you hear is not the CV boot. So it's the actual bearing inside the CV joint that's broken. However, we've already got the part and we've come so far, so we might as well just replace the broken part and see how it goes. And now we're just refilling the original CV joint with some fresh grease and everything goes back in reverse order. Now that the new CV boot is in, it's just time to clean it up and put the straps back on. The inner strap was really fiddly to get in, and my friend assured me that a zip tie is more than adequate for the job, and he was right. Now that the new CV boot is in, everything goes back in reverse order, and these are the 3 nuts that I was talking about earlier that hold the wishbone in place. And then the drive shaft bolt goes back in, making sure it's nice and secure so it doesn't come out while we're driving. And then last but not least, the tire goes back in and we can take it for a test drive to see how it sounds. Well, that pretty much sums it up. I don't need to drive around for any longer than necessary. This time we have the CV joint and we're going to be putting this in place today, hopefully get rid of that knocking sound. So it's the same process again, taking the wheel off, taking the bolts off for the wishbone and putting this new one in place, filling it with grease, and hopefully that should eliminate all of the knocking sounds we have. That's the old one and the new one going in. Perfect. You can already see how much nicer and fresh this new CV joint looks. The old one was clearly knackered and we've got a lot more fresh grease going into this one. upon inspection with the new CV boot and then the old one that we fit, which you can see here, the old one was a lot more adequate than the new one, so we decided to keep that one in place. And then once again, hopefully for the last time, everything goes back in reverse order.
So now he's just doing all 3 bolts on the wishbone.
Then our drive shaft bolt goes in, and then our tyre can go on. Then we can lower the car and finally take it for a test drive. So now that we've fixed the knocking sound coming from the passenger side and we've changed the CV joint, we're confident enough to take this car for an MOT. But before we do that, I've just put the seats back in temporarily. I've connected them up, but there's still an illuminated airbag light that we have. And in order to get rid of that, I've got just a tool which is OBD11. I'm going to plug this into the car, read the codes and erase that because we know there's no issues with the airbag. It's just the seats have been disconnected before. And then we're going to add some oil because, as you know, we had a massive oil leak. So we're going to have to top it up, replenish it before we drive to the MOT station. There we go. After a simple reset, our airbag light is gone. And then we go with some oil. We've just arrived at the MOT station. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's going to be a pass or a fail? Myself, I'm pretty confident. I think I have faith in this car and we're going to get the good old pass. Hopefully first time round. So the guy that was checking it, he said it's like a brand new car and we got a pass. No faults at all. So the only fault that they would have caught would have been the CV joint. That was the only issue this car had. So I'm just leaving the car at the car wash and hopefully tomorrow they'll start on the full valet. And then that'll be the car completely done and ready to be sold. So the car is back and this is what the state of the vehicle is looking like now. So the car wash said this is really hard to get out, these stains, because it's been mold on them for so many years. They couldn't get it out with nothing, even those drill brushes. They tried and it still wouldn't come out. So we are left with some stained seats, unfortunately. Now let's take a look on the bright side. This car has actually come a long way, and this car was a personal challenge I took, and I'm really happy to have you guys join me along this journey, and hopefully this will not be the last. But I suggest you take a good long hard look at her, because in the next video we'll be waving a goodbye and saying hello to the new project I have for you guys. I'm really excited. I can't wait to share it with you lot in the next video. I really appreciate every single one of you who have liked, shared, subscribed, commented. So if you guys have enjoyed the videos as much as I've enjoyed making them for you, then please continue to support the channel by liking, sharing, commenting and subscribing. And hopefully I'll have better projects for you guys in the future. Until next time.